This is a Founding Media podcast.
Welcome to this edition of Founders of Fashion podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Millspaugh. I'm the CEO of Aesthetic Ventures and the Austin Fashion Initiative. On this podcast series, we're exploring all things fashion in conversation with amazing entrepreneurs who are making a contribution to this space. I want to thank Founding Media Productions for producing this series. Today, we're talking with Monxi Garza, founder and designer of SUAVS shoes. SUAVS is a shoe brand based here in Austin, Texas. Let's jump into our conversation. Today, we're talking with Monxi Garza, founder and designer of SUAVS shoes. SUAVS is a shoe brand based here in Austin. Monxi, I've got my SUAVS on today.
Yep.
We're sitting here in this lovely, cold, rainy day in Austin. Yep. Fall hit us hard this year. Anyway, I love my SUAVS because they're so flexible around my feet and they just move with me throughout my day. But take us back to the beginning. How did you come to launch the brand?
Everything began when I was living and working in Spain. I was working in the fashion industry, so I wanted to, look well put together and look stylish. But at the same time, I wanted to be comfortable as well because I was walking to work every day. I was taking the metro or the train to work, and then I had to go out and run my errands, meet up with my friends for happy hour, or do all these different things on my feet all day. And I realized I was always thinking about my feet. I was getting blisters. They were getting sweaty and just painful, annoying. So I wanted to look for a comfortable pair of shoes to wear that was also stylish. And I couldn't find something like that anywhere. So I would, look for Skechers or Clarks or things like that. But they were either too bulky.
Yeah, if they were comfortable, they're big and bulky and just kind of, the clunky. They're not really sleek.
Yeah. And I actually bought this really cool pair of sneakers. They were a Converse by Missoni, and they were very comfortable. They were also stylish, but they looked very athletic. So sometimes you just don't want to look sporty. You just want to look, you're going to work, you're going to a meeting, and you want to be comfortable as well. And then you want to go and take your dog out for a walk, and you want to keep the same shoes on. So I wanted something like that. And that's when I started thinking about this idea for a comfortable pair of shoes that you could wear anywhere.
So how long did you kind of work on those initial first designs and sketching? You sketch all of your designs?
Yes. So when I first started coming up with this idea, I think I just sketched. Maybe it was a completely different design than what I actually started off with when I launched the brand. That was it took me a year from the first sketches to actually the actual style. I think I went through maybe 5 different design sketches first, and then the final one was the first prototype, and then I went through maybe 5 or 6 different prototypes before launching the actual product.
Mm-hmm. So what is that? Yeah, I love that idea of that creative process. So, would you sketch and then stick it up on the wall and just kind of forget about it for a while? Or, you just sketch and then leave it and then come back and, I have another idea.
So for this particular style, my first sketch was actually just a dream kind of thing. And I left it for maybe a few weeks. And then I went back to it. I found it on my desk again. And I was I kept looking back on this, and I really wanted to explore this idea. Mm-hmm. So I think I would leave it, and then I would look at it again. And actually, I don't know if a lot of creatives probably experience the same thing. When you write something or when you draw something, you like it as soon as when you're done with it, you like it. But then when you wait a while and then you go back to it, you're oh, this is actually not that good. And so you make changes and things like that. So I would leave it, go back to it, a few times. And then the prototypes, as soon as I like designed them, I sent them to be made. And then as soon as I got them back, I was like, okay, wait a second. I actually don't like this that much. Change this and that, and then send it back. And yeah.
Okay. So it was kind of like the act of developing those initial prototypes where you're able to sit there and say, no, this isn't exactly what I envisioned. I feel like that's so hard. Whenever I try to sketch anything, and I am not by any means an artist or a designer, but it's like you have the idea. I feel like painters do this really well, where they're essentially painting the back forward. So they have the vision for what they want it to look like at the end result, but then they begin, what they have to paint in the beginning is not what the end result is. They have to add the layers.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's kind of what happens for really any innovation. If you're sitting there or thinking any design, that you're sitting there, you paint those back layers of what you think it's supposed to look like. Yeah. And then it just keeps progressing.
Yeah. And also, like, for example, the shoe I wanted to make was not only for me, it was for everybody else. So I wanted to design something that was really comfortable that anybody could wear anywhere. So when I got the samples back, I would have like my grandma test it, my husband, my brother, everybody testing the shoes out. And then you get all this different types of feedback. And then that's when you go back and you correct everything. So
how important is it? I think it's really unique that your brand is really, it's gender neutral. And I love that. I feel like that's a really modern aesthetic to bring into the fashion industry, and something that we're just now starting to see is this combination of, it's not either masculine or feminine. It's kind of like it conforms to who the person is wearing it and their own style. And there's something about it. So how important is it, was it to you to design in that way?
I think ever since the beginning, it was one of the main points that I was focusing on, apart from comfort. It's not just the gender neutral aspect of it, but the versatility. So I wanted anyone to wear this one style of shoe. Like, I wanted this one style that I designed to just be perfect for anybody to be able to wear anywhere. So not just me, but my grandma, my husband, like any kind of person can wear these shoes. So I really focused on that. And that's why I got all these different people to try them on. And, I wanted to be able to wear them with a pair of like work pants or a skirt or shorts. Yeah.
I think that's, I love that. I think that's so hard to do, so hard to achieve, is design that does, because it's easy to sit here and say, oh, I'm going to pigeonhole it and stick it in this is the one thing. But to think about its use and the way it like transcends different, there's no way that you could ever anticipate all the different ways that people are going to wear it or all the different types of outfit combinations or whatever. But it takes a lot of thought to go into the design of the shoe to get to something that is close to that or achieves that.
And also, the first design I came out with was the Barton slip-on. And
so describe for those of us who are listening, what does that look like?
So the Barton slip-on is basically a slip-on shoe, but it has this strap that goes over the top. It makes it look sleeker, really nice for work. And this was the first style that I came out with.
It's kind of like a little bit, I would say, like a riff on a loafer.
A loafer, yeah. So this was the first style I came out with. And I noticed that we had maybe 90% female customers and very few male customers. And I was like, wait a second, I'm doing something wrong here. I'm going for, like, what I want is a shoe that anybody can wear, not just women want to wear. So I started, asking for feedback again and asking people, why don't you want to try the shoe? What kind of, or what would you change in this type of shoe to make you want to wear it? And a lot of men or a lot of guys said, lace-ups or sneakers. So that's when I started, thinking about that new style, the Zelker, which is the lace-up version that we have. And that took me about a year or so to come up with like the perfect style, not just for men, but for women as well. And yeah, that's the second design that we launched.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the walk me through a bit of kind of that evolutionary process of going and getting feedback and then talking, learning from your customers. I feel like on one hand, designers design from a perspective of, in a way, designing for themselves. The idea is, and the brand is intimately connected to who they are as individuals and their personal journey. But at the same time, you want to be able to sell your stuff. So, and I think the number one cliche thing that people talk about is listen to your customer. So what was that journey like of figuring out who your customer was and learning from them?
So, I mean, you do have to be very careful about what kind of feedback and what advice you take and you don't take. So, for example, one mistake I made was I got a lot of people asking, they wanted for a light blue version of the slip-on. And I mean, it's a really nice color, but then as soon as we launched it, I noticed okay, the
Nobody
sales are not comparing to what the actual feedback was. So you just have to really, I guess with time, you'll start to understand what customers, or you start to understand what customers really want instead of what they're asking for. And for example, a lot of the feedback we get is actually when customers are returning the shoes and they're telling me, I'm returning them because maybe the width is too, or they're too narrow, or the fabric, I don't know, something like that. They're not really telling me, make a shoe like this color, but they're more of providing that kind of feedback. And if it's very constant and repetitive in a large amount of customers, then you're okay, this is actually an issue that I should be looking at changing.
So then if I can edit it and, you keep refining. I think that's so important, is that I really think about when you're building a company, you're talking about developing a brand and you're developing it from scratch. And it does begin with, the founder, I think, is so important to that and your personal journey as a founder. But then at a certain point, maybe it happens over time or whatever, but it evolves beyond you. And then and it becomes something bigger than you, but it becomes an interaction. It's no longer a static thing or just an idea. It's like an organism in and of itself.
Yeah. And I think it's a constant thing. It's never going to be perfect. So there's always going to be things that I can be changing, or as time passes, maybe people start wanting different things, and then you have to adapt to these different things that people want. So you have to constantly be, on the lookout for what people want, really.
And then at the same time, there's still things that stay the same. So how do you define what is it about SUAVS that stays the same?
So our main focus is comfort and versatility. But at the same time, I really, really focus on keeping the shoe very minimalist, have a very minimalist design and style. And that also plays into the versatility aspect. You can wear these shoes with basically anything. I'm not going to be making this very extravagant type of shoe that you can't wear with anything else. So that versatility aspect, that comfort aspect, is always going to stay the same. And you mentioned that you didn't want it to be particularly athletic. So would you call your brand an athleisure brand, or kind of what category I guess, are you looking to fill, or are you looking to create a new category? Well, when people ask me, I always say SUAVS is a lifestyle footwear brand. So it's more about the lifestyle than what the actual product is. So I guess for SUAVS, the person who wears them is somebody who doesn't really want to think about what shoes they're going to wear. So they can just slip the shoes on and go. You can go to work in them. You can go hang out with your friends in them. You can travel with them. You can keep them in your bag because they're really lightweight and compact. They're super lightweight. They fold up into they squish into, and then they just go right back. Yeah.
So yeah, to me, I dance ballet, so they feel like ballet shoes to me, but then something more substantial at the same time as well.
Yeah, I say it's like a sock with a rubber sole.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. Okay. So one thing I think is interesting. So you mostly distribute via e-commerce.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're what we call in the industry now a vertical brand, meaning that there isn't really a lot of middlemen. You go straight to the factories and you design it, and it's your design, and you work with that factory, and then you sell it directly to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that Warby Parker is really kind of known for revolutionizing and bringing to the forefront. And so what are, there's now, I feel like there's lots of companies popping up everywhere, and there's like, I'm the Warby Parker of fill in the blank. And I remember hearing a story with their founders talking about how, what did they, they kind of combined different innovative ideas to be who they were, because there was no Warby Parker to make them. So what are some of the things that make you unique, and what are some of the areas where you're looking to innovate?
So I think, we always get compared to these other vertical brands.
Right. And there's so many, and they're all on
there's
Facebook
a lot
everywhere
of them right now. Honestly, when I first launched SUAVS, I wasn't looking at all these brands. I was just thinking about the idea. And I think what differentiates us, or like any brand from these other vertical brands, is when you're focusing on the product, and you're focusing on trying to bring something really cool and having a lot of people get your idea out there.
Customer experience.
Yeah. When you're focusing on that more so than, being the next Warby Parker, or the next Uber, or the next
Facebook,
Airbnb.
Right. Fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like those brands that are trying to be the next so-and-so, they're more like not really focusing on making...
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're not really focusing on making their actual product amazing. They're more focusing on like trying to be somebody else, which is like...
Or replicate a model for somebody else.
Yeah. And you can, it's smart to look at all these other brands and take the good things that they're doing and implement them into your own business. But I don't think it's a good idea to just like try to be them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you love about kind of the SUAVS? I want to talk about the name, how you came up with the name, and then I want to know like what you love most about them.
So the name came from the word suave, which is soft in Spanish, and suave, which is like in English means like, elegant or confident.
Like smooth. Yeah.
So it's like a combination of both things. And I thought it made sense for me. And what I like most about SUAVS is I basically designed them not just for everybody else, but for me too. I wear my SUAVS every single day. I don't wear anything else. Well, sometimes you'll see me, wearing like sandals or running shoes. But apart from that, it's just like, I can't live without my SUAVS anymore. So.
Yeah. They're a part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where do your ideas come from? Do you still have other ideas for other designs for shoes, or are you kind of sticking with this core and building from there?
Yeah. So right now, I know that there's a product that really works. And I'm going to be focusing on, just creating new colors and new styles based on this one style. And I'm also working on bettering other styles as well. So we're working on that slip-on version that I showed you the other day. And we are also... Look, one thing that I've noticed is a lot of our customers are actually really they're frequent travelers. So we're trying to bring in that travel aspect to the brand, and we're working on this cool new travel related product that we will be probably launching next year. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you're I get what you mean about being a lifestyle brand, and in the sense that you're trying to fill a need, not just for the aesthetic of how something looks, but also the way it feels and the way it moves. And I feel like generally that's something actually in the fashion industry overall that we lose. Like when we get into this idea of collection after a collection after a collection, it's like, well, what are you designing this for? Not only what is it designed to reflect, but what's the purpose?
Yeah.
And it seems like you have a very clear intention about specific elements that you put into the shoe. I remember when we were talking about redesigning the Barton, you were talking about, it has this feeling on this inside, and I want to make that feel better on the foot. And of course,
I go a lot based on touch. So ever since I studied fashion design, and when I was picking out my fabrics for designing a dress or like a jacket or anything, I really love touching soft fabrics and having them feel smooth on my skin. So I always focus on that as well. Mm-hmm. So if it's not comfortable, then I need to change that. And I always need to make it better.
Mm-hmm. Did you think when you were starting and studying fashion that this is kind of the company or the style of company that you would launch?
Nope.
Yeah. What were you thinking as a younger person, what you wanted to do?
Honestly, I think one of my dreams or ideas was to launch a menswear inspired brand for women.
Yeah.
So like really well constructed coats and pants and suits.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first idea, but now I'm making shoes.
Now you're making shoes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what's the vision for the future of your company?
I think for the near future, just keep focusing on creating really comfortable versions of what we have right now, and keep listening to customer feedback and keep bringing, my goal is to have everybody have that go-to pair of SUAVS shoes that can just slip on and go. So anything new that I can come up with that sticks to this idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more question for us. But before I get into that, where can people find you?
You can find SUAVS, or you can talk to us on www.suavs.com. Or you can, the email's on the website.
How SUAVS is spelled in a unique way. So
SUAVS.com.
Yeah. And so, okay, last question. How has your life changed since you've launched the company?
Yeah. So I think the most difference I can see is how I spend my time. Before, when I was working for somebody, it was my 9-to-5 job. And then as soon as I got home, it was just like, my other stuff, my watching TV or going to the gym or whatever. And now I wake up and I'm thinking about SUAVS. Before going to bed, I'm thinking about SUAVS. So it's like
making my to-do list for what I need to do.
Yeah. So I think that's the main difference. I still go to the gym, but yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how to schedule that in. All right, guys, Monxi, I could talk to you all day long, all the time. So thanks for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm your host, Jennifer Millspaugh. To learn more about my work in building Austin's fashion community, please visit me at austinfashioninitiative.com.